Hello everyone. Just as a little part of a little bait research I wanted to do, I set up a little tank that I could test everything on a shaky head underwater. And these are the baits that I have. So this first one is a 4-inch double tail H grub by Gary Yamamoto. Has pretty good action on the fall. Basically kind of looks like a jig on a shaky head. I've used this in the past for a spinnerbait trailer. It does fairly well with this. And that's kind of it. This is the chartreuse and black flake color here. Now this one here is the Gary Yamamoto creature bait. Does fairly well on a shaky head. Does kind of fall over a little bit. I think this one actually looked pretty good rigged the other way. I just rigged it the way I thought it naturally would go. But I think if you rigged it backwards, it would look a little bit better. But it has some pretty good action on the fall. You're hopping it around okay. I'm not exactly sure what it's supposed to look like, but it's kind of supposed to look like whatever. I think that's the idea of it. But it's pretty good. So this one is the Gary Yamamoto flapping hog. This is actually one of my favorite little baits. I typically put this on a jig, not a shaky head. And even on this one, I think I put it on upside down because I wanted to. It had a dark back and a light bottom, so I wanted it to show up on camera a little better. But I'm actually kind of surprised it just kind of falls over on a shaky head. Like, it just falls right over. I think on a jig with a skirt, it looks way better. I think on a future video, I'll put it on a regular jig and show you what it looks like. But it just kind of falls over. Otherwise, it's a good looking bait. I just don't think it does that well just on a plain shaky head. Alright, so this here is a Berkeley Havoc Crawl Fatty. That's at least what I got on my notes. This bait, meh. On a shaky head, I wish it had more action on the claws. I like the color, the black with the blue flake. Looks good. It actually stands up fairly nicely on a shaky head. That right claw is a little bent, I think, just the way it was sitting in the package. It looks okay. Meh. This is a Bass Pro River Bug 3.5 inch. It's a pretty subtle bait. Again, this is something I use on the jig, not a shaky head like this, but it just kind of adds bulk to a jig. It looks okay. I like this color on a jig. I was hoping to show that it had a good swimming action, but it really doesn't. But I think just on the jig it'll look fine. If it would bounce back and forth like that on a shaky head, that'd be cool, but I don't know how often that would actually work out. Alright, so this one here should be one of my favorite new baits. I had no idea this thing had that much action. But it's a striking 4-inch Rage Menace, but the action on the claws in this thing is crazy. It's always moving. And when it's swimming, it looks great. Yeah. See, the claws on this thing are great. See, look. Oh, that's great. That's such a good looking little bait there. I think I'm going to put this on jigs and shaky heads going forward because this thing looks amazing. Alright, so this is a Gary Yamamoto Swim Senko 3.5 inch. I was actually a little surprised. It looks good while it's moving, but if it sits still, it just kind of falls over. I think we should see that here in a second. Maybe, okay, maybe it doesn't. It falls over in one of these at some point. But the swimming action on this thing's great. So I typically use this on a drop shot, not a shaky head. See, okay, it fell down. There you go. But I think it's a little better on a shaky head or just as a jig trailer, which I've used in the past before, and I liked it a lot. This one is a little just a creature bait of my design, like a crawdad bait. I was hoping little flaps on the side would give it more action, and it doesn't. So I just wanted to include this to kind of show that I'll crap on my own design. I don't really care. If it's good, it's good. If it's bad, it's bad. And this one just not very impressed with myself. Although the way it fell was pretty slow. This one's a little better design here. This one again is another different one of my own design. But I really like the way when it falls, the claws, they're always moving. Even when it's sitting still here, they're always wiggling very subtly, and I like that a lot. See, that was nice. And when you pause it, they still go back and forth just a little bit, which is nice. I hope to kind of perfect this just a little bit. I think I can tweak it just a little bit more, and it would be a little bit better. So the paddles didn't quite bump each other, and it would move a little bit more. But otherwise, I'm pretty happy with that design. Looks good, even swimming. But see, those claws are always moving just a little bit. I like that. Alright, so this is a Zoom 8-inch Magnum Lizard, which I was actually quite surprised on how much these things, the action on these things underwater. I don't understand why I use just a regular plastic worm anymore, because this thing is basically a plastic worm with little appendages on the sides, and they give a lot of action, and I like this thing a lot. So I think going forward I may have a few more lizards in the bag rather than just regular, curly tail worms. But this one, actually, I really like this a lot. It sat up well on a shaky head. Had a lot of action while it moved. It never really sat still, which was very nice. So I like this one a lot. Alright, so this one is the Trigger X lizard I got from Cabela's. I don't know what I can say about this thing. This is basically a lizard with oversized flippers in the tail. It does not do very well on a shaky head. It's just not good. Maybe on like like rig weightless, you know, just kind of burn over the top of grass and stuff, it would look good. But otherwise, I don't like that one very much. This is a Cabela's creature bait. It's basically a brush hog. I was a little surprised on this particular one didn't have very much action in the water. It kind of wiggles a little bit, but just the regular kind of flapping hog or just kind of creature bait, it's just I'm a little disappointed in this one, but that's what it looked like underwater. You can take it with a grain of sand, I suppose. So this is a 412 Bait Company 4-1 tube. The body of the tube is a little thinner than most tubes I've seen on the market, which I like a lot on a shaky head. I think it probably work a little better with hookups, with hook sets and stuff. As far as tubes go, I didn't really know that that's just kind of what they do underwater. I thought they'd have more action than that. But this is why I do these little videos, is I was actually a little curious to see exactly what they did in the water. This is a Yum 7.5 inch ribbon tail. This actually looked very nice on a shaky head. I don't think I'm going to do regular Texas rigging anymore, where there's just like a bullet and a hook. But this looks super good on a shaky head. It sits up. It never really stops moving when you pause it. And yeah, I mean, just these regular kind of rubber worms like we've always used look super good on a shaky head. I was actually quite impressed with that one. Alright, this is a Bass Pro Shop 5 3/8 inch Sticko worm. Just basically a Cinco worm knockoff. This is actually my favorite bait, just rig weightless and going fishing with. I was unaware that on a shaky head it would just fall over like that. Like it won't stay vertical. Once you pause it, it falls over. I thought it would at least kind of keep setting up, but even still, this is my favorite weightless style worm, but doesn't look that great on a shaky head, I'll be honest with you. But it just keeps falling over. Alright, this is a little bait of my own design. I was trying to do like a brush hog type lure with little flaps on the side and a paddle tail. But this looks super good as just like pulling it through the water column. See how it just kind of wiggles like that? I was actually quite impressed on how this works. I may have to do a little more research on this type of bait and see if I can kind of make it like a kind of a brush hog, or like a, you know, make maybe like a crankbait substitute. But I was actually quite impressed with this little bait that I made. It looks good. Alright, this is another worm of my design. I tried to modify just a regular Cinco. I made it curve down in the back. And it actually sits up in the water column on a shaky head, and then even when it sits still, it still kind of moves subtly. It even kind of goes back and forth a little bit, and it sits straight up on a shaky head, which I like a lot. So I think I got to do a little more fine-tuning of this thing, but I think overall it looks good. It doesn't look very good when you just pull it through the water column, but when you jerk it and pause it for a second. Maybe I got one more. Oh, I got one more. Let's see. It still kind of wiggles just a little bit when you, even when you pause it. It looks good. I like that a lot. Alright, this is a really cool little bait. This is the Jackall 6-inch scissor comb worm. And the tiniest little movement has the little flaps on the side fluttering very nicely in it. This is just a super good looking little worm. I really like this thing a lot on the fall. Even when you just move it just a little bit, it just kind of shimmies all over. Like, this is such a beautiful little bait. Look at that. That's great. I like that worm a lot. I think I'm just going to replace all my worms with this thing and like lizards, and just be done with just regular plastic worms, rubber worms all together. Alright, this is the Lake Fork Hyper Freak. In order for this thing to really get good action on it, it has to be constantly moving. Just little jerks and stuff on a shaky head like this does not look that impressive. I've used this on a chatterbait as a trailer before, and it looked really good. Right up until the point I got a backlash, and the tail of this thing just popped off and went sailing into the woods. I'm pretty sure I did that twice until I got mad and decided not to use that anymore. But when it was on there and I didn't get a backlash on it and pop the tail off of it and send it flying into the woods, it actually looked pretty good. But on a shaky head, it's not that great looking. All right, this is a Zoom finesse worm. Looks very good on a shaky head. I think this is exactly what finesse worms are supposed to do. Just very subtle presentation. Just, drop, shake them a little bit. They move a little bit, and very non-threatening little bait. I like this little bait a lot. It's kind of, yeah, it's a good looking little bait. Does what it's supposed to do. Alright, this one is a robo worm. Robo worms are very popular. It looks pretty good on a shaky head. Has nice movement when you're pulling it through the water column. It floats. I wish I would have just kind of just set it there and just bumped it so it just shook just a little tiny bit. Look good, but rubber worms and the finesse worm by Zoom, very good looking little shaky head baits. That looks good there. And the last one of my video is a little worm of my design. I was trying to make it like a little Nico rig. Put little flaps on the end, so maybe it would give it a little more action in the fall, which I think it does. But I was hoping it was giving it a little more just kind of wobbly side-to-side action. It does on the fall. It does a pretty good job in pulling it in like that. Looks good. But otherwise, just a nice little Nico rig. I'll have to do a little more tweaking on that, but that was my video, guys, and I hope you like it. I plan on doing a few more in the future, like maybe like a drop shot video like this, just to compare different baits. Hope you like it. If you like it, subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys later.